Hello and welcome to Trust Talk. I'm your host, Gary Kelley. Today in California, if you own a home or other property that is valued at more than $186,000, and of course, if you own a home in California who doesn't own a home that expensive, and you don't have a trust, it can cause massive potential problems for you. That's why Vanguard Legal Group has launched this program, Trust Talk, and welcome. There are so many situations in which only a trust can protect you, your family, and everything you've worked so hard for. And since Vanguard Legal Group is one of the leading producers of trust with over 27,000 clients, who better than to present Trust Talk? We'll be covering a whole host of subjects relating to how to properly execute your estate planning and trust, and provide you with ways to get all of your questions answered in this especially important area. We want to help you protect yourself, your family, and everything you've worked so hard for your entire life. In these next segments, we're going to start with the actions that a trustee is both required to do and that are best practices and why it is essential. To help us understand these important topics, I'm joined by Vanguard Legal Groups of Counsel, Stacy Denherter. Stacy has over 31 years of experience in estate planning and is currently providing trustee services to approximately 50 clients. So she has seen it all. We are incredibly pleased to have her as Vanguard's off counsel and here to share her wisdom, her experience, and her insights with all of us. Stacy, first of all, it is incredible to get to meet you. It really is.
Well, it's been my pleasure as well. This has been fun to get to know you.
Oh, thank you. We're having fun here together. It's important topics, a lot of things, information you're sharing that we all have to know. Can you explain for me, as I'm learning all this myself, what is a successor trustee?
Sure. A successor trustee is the person that you name in your estate plan to carry out all of your wishes in your plan. So it's the person that has to make sure that things happen the way you want them to happen if you're ever incapacitated or you die. So it's a really crucial decision that you pick the right person. It's like one of those things where you have to think about the type of person that you're picking and make sure that they have all the right, not necessarily credentials, but do they have financial acumen? Think about that. Like if you wanted to pick your son just because he's your firstborn, but he's really bad with money, imagine what would happen if you were incapacitated and he takes over your estate.
What do you mean I'm broke? No, I get it. So there is a lot of personal responsibility in making that decision. How do you weigh who is better than others? Because things can change over time.
That's right. And you're right. You would be broke if you picked that son. If you recover.
I hope he's not watching.
And this was all an example.
Yes, true.
But if you pick somebody that is not good with money and you become incapacitated, they have full control over all of your assets. So they can use your checkbook like it's their own checkbook. And that's why it's important that you pick the right trustee. You need to pick somebody who's financially savvy, who's good with money. You need to pick somebody who has the time. If you have another child who has a family, a career, they're in the midst of the busiest part of their life and you become incapacitated or if you die, this is a huge job that stops their life in its tracks. So it's a big decision as to whom you choose as trustee.
So you need to choose someone that is really going to want to be in this role for the long run for life. Does the trustee get any benefit other than helping that family member or a friend?
Well, there's the prestige of it. Almost every family has the firstborn who thinks it's their job to be the trustee because I was firstborn.
Sure, makes sense.
And you want to do the job because it sounds like it's an honor. And it sounds like, I'm taking care of my parents and their estate and I'll handle everything. But people have no idea what they're getting themselves into. I mean, just even little things like when somebody becomes incapacitated or if they die, you have to go get on their bank accounts. So for example, I went with a client of mine. He's the successor trustee for his mother, and we went to the bank on Saturday morning to get him onto the bank accounts. It took us an hour and a half of waiting. And then when we got into the banker, that took us almost 2 hours to get him onto the account. And even then, there were some glitches where they had to send things to their legal department, and he's going to have to come back next week. So you plan to spend 3 to 4 hours with every financial institution just to get control of the accounts, let alone the myriad of other things that need to be done. That's just like a minuscule piece of what it is to be a trustee.
I had a thought. So what happens with other siblings, et cetera, in a family? You make a decision that possibly they're not on board with.
Oh, you're so right. That happens all the time.
I don't think I want the job.
Well, there's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
There's the timing of when you sell assets in the market. Because think about it, if somebody died last week, do we liquidate all the investment accounts right away and put everything into cash so we can't lose it? And then you'll have some siblings who might say, no, leave it in the market. The market's going to keep going up. We're losing all that appreciation. But if you leave it in the market and it goes down, what do you think they're going to say then?
Sure.
Or
you made a mistake.
Yeah. What realtor to choose? You know, even that. Everybody's got a friend who's a realtor. And
especially today. It kind of sounds like as a successor trustee, you can't win.
well, it isn't that you can't win. It's just that it's difficult to navigate all of those different situations, and it's difficult to navigate the family dynamics at times. But it's definitely a job where you can win. You just have to have the right counsel.
So listening to your information, is it good or bad to have a family member involved as a trustee?
Well, sometimes it's very good. Sometimes you have an obvious choice as to who should serve as your successor trustee because they would be the best one in all circumstances. But a lot of times there is not an obvious choice. And that's when I think a person should consider a professional trustee. So there's several kinds of professional trustees that can step in and manage your estate in the event of your incapacity or death. And you know, if you think about that, we all use CPAs to do our taxes. We use financial advisors to help us with our finances. And it's not that we're incompetent and couldn't do those things ourselves.
Sure.
It's that we don't want to educate ourselves on every nuance of how that works. So we hire a professional.
Yeah, so how does somebody find a professional trustee?
Well, that's a good question. There's several kinds of professional trustees. So first, there are banks and trust companies that will serve as a successor trustee. Generally, what I would say about banks and trust companies is that is a very corporate choice. They are only going to manage your money. They are not going to take care of a myriad of other issues that come up. And their job is to just manage it by the book. So it's not a lot of stepping into your shoes. Like if I became your trustee and you have kids, I might want somebody who is going to use their judgment like a parent. And would I have given money in this situation or not? When you pick a bank or a trust company, they're not going to use a parent's judgment.
Sure.
They're going to use corporate fiduciary judgment, and that isn't always what you want.
So are there any other types of professional trustees? Is a bank your only option, or what's best?
No, so there are other types. There are professional fiduciaries, and they are generally individuals who are licensed to serve as your successor trustee, but they're typically a one-person shop. You know, so if something ever happens to them and they become incapacitated or die, there's a problem with the succession planning there.
Ooh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, and estate planning law firms. Some of your law firms, in fact, our law firm serves as successor trustee for many of our clients when they don't have an obvious choice, because we've helped them prepare the estate plan. We've gotten to know them and their family members.
Oh, sure.
We understand the family dynamics, and then we can carry out their wishes how we knew they intended those to be carried out. So that's in my opinion, that's an excellent choice. And there's some internal succession there because it would be whoever the managing attorney of the firm would be the successor trustee. And that could be a succession in and of itself.
So in my case, just listening to you talk, Stacy, you're making me feel calm and more comfortable about the whole process because I trust you. You've been with me through the entire process, so it really doesn't make sense to try to be out looking elsewhere. I mean, it is the rest of your life. It's the most important decision you're probably ever going to make. other than when you got married or you bought your house or those important things. This is everything.
It is, and this is the way you keep your family intact after you're gone.
Stacy, thank you so much for educating us on the importance of trustee services. At Vanguard Legal Group, we have over 27,000 clients who depend on us, and we are committed to providing important ongoing education to help them. We have several hundred of our clients who have already chosen Vanguard to be their trustee to relieve their loved ones of what you can see is a significant burden. So if you are any way concerned about putting too much pressure on the people that you love so much, using a licensed law firm like Vanguard Legal Group could be the answer. If you have any questions or concerns about your trustee, please feel free to contact us at 858-384-5777. Thank you so much for joining us.